So Dave, a little bit about Dave, the urban sky pioneer, we're affectionately calling him. Dave is a Kansas transplant who followed his wife Sherry to Colorado for grad school, and they never left. He's been a Chiefs fan since the late 60s and is proudly related to the Wicked Witch of the West, Margaret Hamilton. Yeah, let's give it up for that. He's been enmeshed with the Denver faith community for over 30 years. 20 years ago, he founded a nonprofit for misfit pastor types called Urban Sky, and currently works as a church pastor and chaplain for Volunteers of America. Leonore is one of those, an urban skyite. He and Sherry have 3 above average adult children. Sure, they love that, right? And 0 grandchildren, with a very sad face after that. So, Dave, everybody.
Well, it is true, I am related to the Wicked Witch of the West, but as it turns out, not as related as I thought. So for 40 years, or my whole life, I have been telling people that Margaret Hamilton was a Meserve and married to Hamilton, and I found out that I got that backwards. And I just found this out 3 weeks ago. Ironically, I was Googling while watching Wicked and found out that she was a Hamilton and married a Meserve for only like 6 years. And I can't tell you how disappointed I am at this. Not only is it our best fun fact of the family, but I think of my kids, and especially my 2 daughters, and how they just love telling people that the blood of the Wicked Witch of the West flows through their veins. But now it's just complicated. But that's kind of what happens with the family name. It gets complicated, especially when you're a young boy and you're trying to uphold the family name. So here is one of my failure stories. So I'm going to take us back to the early 1970s. I'm 10 years old in my hometown of Lawrence, Kansas. And Leonore, I was a Cub Scout. And I was a Cub Scout, and we would start our meetings with be square and obey the laws of the pack, because that's how we rolled in the 70s, apparently. So Cub Scouts, I don't remember much, but what I do remember is one of the great American traditions, which is the Pinewood Derby. Anyone? Anyone? I knew Scott. So the Pinewood Derby was coming up, and it was our first time to do it, and we were all very excited. And the Pinewood Derby, for the unenlightened, is a competition between Cub Scouts and different troops where you take a block of pine wood and you carve and sand and chip away and paint a racing machine that you compete with other kids at what we call a derby. And it's a big deal, and it's a lot of fun. And so we were all excited to do it. My problem was I'm 10 years old, and you really need a dad to do this with, and I didn't have one. My dad left 5 years earlier, and so that put us in a bit of a bind. But here's what I knew about my dad, if you would have asked me that then. My dad's from Maine, I knew that. He was an English professor. He was really good with his hands. He actually built the house I was living in, and my dad was an Eagle Scout. And I had the sash with all the merit badges to prove it at home. And I thought he would have been awesome at the Pinewood Derby. But he lived a couple states away. And so I went over across the street to Jimmy Rupert's, and his dad took me under his wing, and he would work with Jimmy and I for our cars. And we spent weeks working on our cars. So you get your block of wood, and you kind of map out a design, and you begin to chip and cut and sand and sand. And as I did mine, there was kind of a crater where the driver would be and a couple bumps above it. And when you look at it from the top, it looked like a wide-mouthed frog. So I had the frog car. Of course, I painted it, oh, thank you. And of course, you paint it green. And I have these memories of just working on that. And I look over, and there's Jimmy and his dad. Now, his dad was an engineering professor, built his wood shop. It was immaculate, with a system that removed all dust whenever it would appear. And they're over working on theirs, and of course it's an aerodynamic master class, and it's painted with stripes and all this, and it was a thing of beauty. But I was pretty proud of my little frog car. And I was excited to race until about 2 weeks before the event, and I lost my car. And to this day, I don't know what happened, but I begged my mom for another kit, and she brought home another kit. And I was too embarrassed to go back to Mr. Rupert. He was kind of a big guy. And so I said, I guess I'm on my own, and I was going to do it myself. So I go into my workshop in our house, which I don't think anyone had been in since my dad left. And it had a bench, and it had tools misplaced all over the place. And I just did my best to carve it away and to sand it and to make it into that frog car that I thought was pretty good. And when it came to paint it, we had a lot of paint. They were all dried out except for one, white. And so I painted white, no primer or anything. And it was one ugly little car. And I didn't really know how ugly till my big brother was home from college for the weekend before. And he was a good big brother, but he just made a little comment like, David, you didn't put your best effort into that, did you? And that's where shame took root. So a couple days later, the event came, and I took my little albino frog car and I put it in a brown paper sack, and I carried it by myself 2 blocks up to Sunset Hill Elementary into the gym where it was happening. And when you walk in, all you see is just dads and their sons, and everybody's moving. And at the end was the racetrack, and there was just cheers or constellations and all this energy around it. And there was a guy with a bullhorn who would tell you when it was your turn to race. And then finally it happened. Dave Meserve, come to the starting line. Now, in the made-for-TV version movie of my life, I'm in the center of the Sunset Hill gym, activity all around me. There's kind of a dim spotlight, and I'm holding my little bag, and I just freeze. And I wait. A couple minutes later, Dave Meserve, come on, it's time to race. And by the time he got to his third announcement, I had been running home in tears. Now, it's not the end of the story. I don't remember ever talking to anybody about it, and I know as a kid you just want to leave that behind, but important stories have a way of finding you as an adult, and that's one of the stories that continue to find me. Often the story would whisper dark things to me. It would say, Dave, here you are trying to race in the world of men and boys again, like you're on your own, and I don't think you're up to it. But fortunately, there were some other voices as well. And over the years, and with help, that I've had conversations with that 10-year-old Cub Scout, and we've talked and walked through that journey again, and what we've discovered is there was a whole cast of characters that rose to the surface because of all this. And there are other voices because I remember, in fact, I don't remember a time when there wasn't an older man or woman who was sent to me, who noticed me, and who encouraged me to race when I needed to, or walked with me when I would freeze again. And they would whisper a different message. And the message was, Dave, you're good. You don't need the joy, the deepest joy of life is not trying to uphold the family name, but it is being marked again and again by the relentless and sometimes sneaky grace of God. It says that's what it's about. And I have been the beneficiary of so much kindness because of my abandonment that I am so thankful. And I go, those are the stories I want to uphold. So to end, I brought a one thing. 2 years ago, Sherry and I were in an interesting little group called a confessional community, and we were telling stories. And one of the women, Rachel, who I didn't know before the group, heard my story and went out and had this made for me. It is a trophy of a Pinewood Derby, and it says Pinewood Derby winner, Dave Meserve. And so I'm very proud of this, and regardless, I'm still very proud to be related to the Wicked Witch of the West. Thank you.